What if the most famous photograph in American crime history is a lie? July 22, 1934. Outside a Chicago theater, the FBI guns down public enemy number one, John Dillinger. The news flashes across the country. The nation breathes a collective sigh of relief. The monster is dead. But what if the man on that cold steel slab, the man the whole world saw, wasn't Dillinger at all? This isn't just a fringe theory whispered in dark corners. This is a chilling mystery built on the FBI's own evidence, a puzzle of conflicting facts that simply refuse to align. We're talking about official records noting the wrong eye color, scars that mysteriously vanished, and fingerprints that some experts, even at the time, claimed never truly matched. Imagine the scene. Dillinger's own father is brought in to identify the body. The story goes that he looked down at the figure and uttered the bone-chilling words, "That is not my boy." The official explanation was grief and denial. But what if it was the simple, terrifying truth? We think of Dillinger as a bank robber, a gunslinger defined by his violent takedowns. But what if his greatest heist wasn't stealing money from a vault? What if his masterpiece, his final breathtaking act, was stealing a new identity, right under the noses of the entire world? Tonight, we're not just re-examining a dusty, cold case. We are peeling back the layers of one of history's greatest vanishing acts. We're exploring the stunning possibility that while an entire nation celebrated the death of a legend, the man himself simply, quietly, walked away. The question isn't just if he could have done it, it's how. And more importantly, where did he go? To understand this audacious theory, you have to understand the pressure cooker that was 1934 America. The Great Depression had the country on its knees, and gangsters like Dillinger were becoming folk heroes, Robin Hoods with Tommy guns. This was a public relations nightmare for the fledgling FBI and its ambitious director, J. Edgar Hoover. He needed a win. He didn't just need to catch Dillinger. He needed to make a very public, very final example of him. The stage was set not just for a manhunt, but for a piece of theater. And Dillinger was a master of transformation. Long before we had the sophisticated plastic surgery of today, he was pioneering the art of the disappearing act. Picture this, a smoky back-alley doctor's office in Chicago. Dillinger is in the chair, paying a small fortune to have his face chemically burned with acid and his fingerprints altered. The procedure was brutal, a desperate gamble to erase his identity. But here's the twist. Historians like Elliot Gorn note that these crude operations were largely failures. They left him in agony and arguably made his face even more recognizable with fresh scars. So if he couldn't change his face, what could he change? He could change the man. The theory hinges on a man named Jimmy Lawrence, a small-time Chicago hood who bore a passing resemblance to Dillinger. Was it possible that Dillinger, a known mastermind of complex plans, found a look-alike, a decoy to take the fall while he slipped away into the night? It sounds like something from a Hollywood script, but in the desperate world of 1930s crime, anything was possible. Now let's look at the setup. The legendary woman in red, Anna Sage. The official story paints her as the informant who betrayed Dillinger to the FBI in exchange for stopping her deportation back to Romania. A simple cut-and-dried deal, but her story changed multiple times. She was a brothel madam, a woman deeply embedded in the criminal underworld, playing her own game of survival. What if her deal with FBI agent Melvin Purvis wasn't to deliver the real Dillinger? What if it was to deliver a Dillinger, any man who could pass for him, to close the case and save herself? The FBI got their headline, and she, supposedly, got her freedom. Though in a final ironic twist, they still deported her anyway. Seems like loyalty wasn't part of the deal. This cat-and-mouse game culminates outside the Biograph Theater. Agents were told Dillinger would be wearing specific clothing, accompanied by Sage in her now famous red dress. But when the target emerged, there was hesitation. Accounts from agents on the scene describe a moment of confusion before the hail of bullets began. Why hesitate if you're looking at the most famous criminal face in America? This is where the physical evidence becomes so troubling. The autopsy report, a supposedly definitive document, is riddled with inconsistencies. The body had brown eyes. Dillinger's were famously grey-blue. The corpse had a rheumatic heart condition. Dillinger's medical records showed no such thing. A prominent scar on his upper lip was absent. His own sister, Audrey, publicly stated the man in the morgue was not her brother. The FBI dismissed these claims as mistakes, or the desperate denials of a grieving family. They had fingerprints, they said. Case closed. But even the fingerprints are controversial, with some modern analysts arguing the prints taken from the corpse were too smudged and incomplete for a conclusive match with Dillinger's pristine military records. Each of these facts, on its own, could be a simple error. A clerical mistake, an agent's misidentification under pressure. But when you line them all up, the small cracks in the official story begin to look like a gaping hole. It stops being a series of coincidences and starts to feel like a carefully constructed narrative. A narrative that allowed a legend to die so a man could live. But if the man in the morgue wasn't Dillinger, who was he? And what would it take to pull off such a grand deception? Already intrigued? Hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, because this is where the story truly breaks free from the history books and dives headfirst into the legend. So if Dillinger didn't die that night, where did he go? The answer might be more audacious than any bank robbery he ever planned. What if he didn't run to a foreign country or hide in some remote cabin? What if he simply went to California and lived out a quiet, normal life right under everyone's nose? This is the explosive theory put forth by researchers like J. Robert Nash. They point to a man who surfaced in the 1960s, a man who bore an uncanny resemblance to an older John Dillinger. He worked a simple job, lived in a small town, and occasionally, to trusted friends, would drop hints of an extraordinary past. There's even rumored to be a manuscript, an unpublished autobiography detailing the entire escape, the plastic surgery, the setup with Jimmy Lawrence, and the long, quiet years that followed. Imagine the sheer nerve. The man the FBI declared dead and buried is watching his own legend grow from the comfort of a suburban home. He sees the movies, reads the books, and perhaps even smiles at how they got it all wrong. He wasn't just hiding, he was winning. He was proving that the system, the all-powerful government that hunted him, could be fooled with the oldest trick in the book, misdirection. The most chilling piece of this puzzle is not a document, but a question of psychology. What was Dillinger's true motivation? Was it money, fame, or was it the game itself, the ultimate thrill? What if his final act wasn't about escaping justice, but about achieving a form of immortality? By faking his death, he freezes his public persona in time, forever the young, defiant gunslinger. Meanwhile, the man, the real John Dillinger, gets to do what no legend ever can. He gets to grow old. This wasn't just an escape plan, it was a psychological masterpiece. He orchestrated a public execution of his own myth, sacrificing his infamous identity to reclaim his anonymous humanity. The FBI celebrated the death of a symbol, while the man behind it all simply walked into the sunset, having pulled off the one crime they could never solve, the theft of his own life. So, did the FBI hunt a ghost, only to create a legend that would outlive them all? The evidence suggests that while they were busy taking pictures of a body in a morgue, the real prize had already vanished. In the end, we are left with two Dillingers. There is the one in the history books, whose story ends on a bloody Chicago sidewalk. His tale is a warning, a lesson that crime doesn't pay and the law always wins. It's a neat, tidy conclusion that serves the official narrative. Then there is the other Dillinger, the ghost, the man who became a whisper, a myth that persists precisely because it feels more true to his character. This Dillinger story isn't a warning, it's a masterclass in rebellion. It suggests that an individual, through sheer audacity and intelligence, can outwit the most powerful forces arrayed against them. It speaks to a deep-seated desire in all of us to believe that escape is possible, that we are not entirely trapped by the identities assigned to us. In an age where every move is tracked, every face is scanned, and our digital fingerprints are everywhere, you have to wonder, could anyone pull off a Dillinger today? Or was he the last man to truly disappear, a product of a simpler, analog world where a person could still slip through the cracks of history? The truth of what happened on July 22, 1934, is likely buried with the men who were there, but the mystery is alive, burning brighter than ever. Perhaps the greatest trick John Dillinger ever pulled wasn't escaping the FBI, but escaping the certainty of history itself, leaving us forever to hunt his shadow, and that's our hunt for now. Like this journey? Hit subscribe for more mysteries, because that's what this is, a wild mix of documented history and tantalizing what-ifs based on bibliographical sources. What do you think? Did the public enemy #1 die that night, or did he pull off the ultimate disappearing act? Let us know in the comments.